Uy,
Hola, recording now. Muy bien, vamos a empezar y vamos a practicar más y más con el pretérito. We're going to do more preterit practice, of course, and see what kinds of questions you might have, because you may have some questions. So actually, one of the first ones I want to ask just to see if there were questions. Did everybody do okay with this video that used ver quite a lot? Ooh. Eso es. So, these little stories are helpful because, they help you to hear how these are actually used in context. That's an important thing.
And her videos are, for lack of any other way to say it, they're nice and slow for us learners. And she tends to repeat lines, which really, both of those really help.
That is done that way on purpose. That is part of the technique. But para que sepan, so when I choose these videos, it's because they use these kinds of techniques to build in repetition and to put things in the context of a story so you can see how people would actually use it, but certainly done at a manageable pace for someone who is a beginner. Okay. Vamos a ver, we're gonna see. What I want to practice with today is I want to do these irregular preterites in twos because we're going to focus on these two today, poder y poner. And poder gets an asterisk because it means something specific in past tense context. Poder has a specific connotation, nuance, that it means one thing in preterit, but means something really quite different in imperfecto. So there are some verbs, and we're going to start to kind of go down that path. There are some verbs, not all, but some, where the meaning of the verb itself might change kind of substantially when used in the preterit versus the imperfect. And poder is one of those, which is why it gets an asterisk. Also, we're doing these together because wow, they're only different by one letter. So, well, that's a little challenging. But again, they're going to use these kinds of very predictable endings. These are the endings that we use for a lot of irregular preterites. The iste, o, imos, ieron, conjugation endings, no accent marks, those ones. And the stem will undergo this kind of change. So this is what we're getting used to, that poder switches out the o, it plugs in a U, okay? But it keeps that D from poder. And with poner, it also gets rid of the O of poner and also substitutes an U, but oddly, poner gets rid of that N as well. And it switches it to an S, which sounds totally weird because there's no S in poner, but there you go. So meaning wise, context wise, poner is just put, right? We don't say puted in English, but it's just put in the past. But this poder thing, that is going to have a specific meaning change when we use it in this oddball irregular form. So here again are what these will look like and sound like. And let's look just at the form. So we've got pude, With my 15-year-olds, we used to call these the pudding verbs. Pudding. You eat pudding. Pudding is yummy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pude. Pude. Pudiste. Pudo. Pudimos. Pudisteis if you were in Spain, but we, of course, won't practice that one. Pudieron. Pudieron. And this will be a little unusual because it's going to get that meaning change. We'll get to that in a minute. We're looking right now just at what the conjugation itself is. And then for poner, of course, it will just mean put. So you put something yesterday, you put something an hour ago back in the closet, you know, something like that. We get puse, pusiste, puso, pusimos, and pusisteis in Spain, but pusieron. And this will work the same if we use poner as not just poner to put, but as in ponerse, like put on. Yeah. So we use these forms of poner, both for poner, meaning you place something in a certain area, you put something away, you know, in some place. Or if we use that verb poner as it's a reflexive form, ponerse. So ponerse is to put something on your body, like put cream on your body, put clothing on your body, put jewelry on your body, right? Ponerse is a very useful verb to say you're putting some article of clothing on. Okay, let's go a little bit more to why this poder thing is, why is it problematic? Well, poder is problematic because it's irregular, number one, but the meaning does change someone's somewhat. It does not imply ability in preterite tense. Poder in imperfect implies ability. Okay. Podía nadar muy bien cuando era joven. I could swim really well when I was young. And it just talks about what I was capable of doing, the ability I had. Podía, any of the imperfect forms, do not imply anything about whether or not that activity actually happened at a specific time. They talk about the potential that somebody had in the past for being capable of doing something. In my opinion, conversationally, in a random 15-minute conversation, I think poder is a little more common in imperfecto. Those forms that look like podía, podías, podía, podíamos, podían, because I think conversationally, we tend to talk more about what somebody could do, meaning what they were able to do at a specific time, or not at a specific time, but in general in the past. But you do hear poder used in preterito, and then it really implies that something actually happened. It actually, that person managed to get it done. So as an affirmative statement, poder in preterito means someone managed to get something done. It means that activity really happened at a specific time. Okay. We would not translate these pude, pudiste, pudo, pudimos, pudieron, these preterites. We would not translate them as could. If what you mean is could, as in was able to, you need to use the imperfecto, podía. All right. So there's a definite nuance, a definite meaning that something actually happened, or in the negative, that they didn't manage to make it happen. So we've got these examples, see? And we went through those examples last week. So, okay. here's what we're going to work on today to see if we can express these ideas. These are all practice using specifically. You don't need to decide, do I use imperfect or do I use preterit? We are practicing that irregular preterit. I managed to fix the bike. ¿Cómo se dice? How would we say that?
Puede arreglar la bicicleta.
Pude, sí. Pude
Pude.
arreglar. Arreglar is one way to say it. You could say reparar. There are a few different ways to say fix, but arreglar works. Pude arreglar la bicicleta, la bici. Pude arreglar la bici. Pude. And people will not bother with the yo in most cases because everybody knows that pude is the only form that goes with yo. So, you know, we get with preterito, we get back to that habit of, in most cases, you don't really bother with the pronoun of the human being doing or who did that action because, you know, it's obvious, es obvio. We managed to buy this for a good price.
Pudimos comprar eso para un buen precio.
Sí, but we'll use por un buen precio. Sí, pudimos comprar esto, this thing. Yeah, when you mean something just generically, you know, this thing, esto works. Pudimos comprar esto. Oh, perdón.
Could I say pudimos lo comprar? That would be it rather than this, I
That's
guess.
close. That's close, but we would say pudimos comprarlo. If you want to use lo, and lo would just mean it. And is that pretty close to saying we bought this? Yeah, it's saying we bought it. So it's not a huge difference. It's getting across the main idea, right? Could you use lo instead of saying esto? Yes, but instead, you know, you'd be saying it instead of this. So do you get the main idea across by using lo? Yeah, you still do. Okay, so pudimos comprarlo o es posible decir lo podimos comprar. Here's one of those things where that lo can go into two places. Podemos decir, we can say, lo podimos comprar o pudimos comprarlo. Okay. So if you want to use lo instead of esto, you can definitely do that. Okay. But we will need the por because the por means in exchange for. Por un buen precio. Okay. And the next one we're going to take a look at is, did you call Elena? And this does not mean, did you have the ability to call Elena? Did you reach her? Did you manage to get her on the line? That's what poder means in this sentence.
¿Pudiste llamar a Elena?
Pudiste llamar.
¿Pudiste llamar a Elena?
A Elena. ¿Pudiste llamar a Elena? Exacto. ¿Pudiste llamar a la Elena? You could say telefonear, but you know, people are going to say llamar because it's a shorter verb and that's what they use. ¿Pudiste llamar a Elena? Okay. And notice there is a really huge difference in meaning between podías, and I'll type it in here so that you can see it. Podías llamar a Elena and pudiste llamar a Elena. There's actually a pretty big difference between what idea you're conveying with those two. They're the same verb, but in different tenses, right? Podías llamar a Elena would just mean, like, did you have your phone out? Wow, could you have done it if you wanted to? Could you have done it if you wanted to? Podías, could you do it? Did you have the ability? Oh, like maybe you didn't have your phone on you, or maybe your battery ran out, right? And then you couldn't, right? But pudiste llamar a Elena actually talks about, did you make that work? Did you make that happen? Okay. So it talks about the event actually happening. Okay. Whereas podías llamar would just to talk about, was the ability there? You know, did you have an internet connection? Did you have a phone that was working? So it, podías just talks about the ability. So my boss couldn't leave till 7, meaning he didn't manage to leave. Okay. My boss,
Mi jefe.
mi jefe,
Mi jefe no podía.
no pudo. No pudo salir hasta
Las 7.
Las 7.
las 7, hasta las 7, ¿sí? Mi jefe no pudo salir hasta las 7, ¿sí? Meaning he didn't manage to make that action of walking out the door happen, okay? Until 7, hasta las 7. So poder gets a special meaning there. And did you guys manage to read that file? And file is archivo.
Pudieron
Pudieron leer
ese archivo.
ese archivo. Pudieron leer ese archivo. Yeah. Did you actually get it done? Okay. This question phrased this way, podían leer ese archivo, would really imply something else. It would imply, were you capable of reading it? Like maybe was it legible? Or maybe were you able to find it so that you could actually have it there? But pudieron leer ese archivo would indicate that you're asking, hey, did you actually get it done reading through that whole file? Did you actually do that action of leer? Did you get that done? So poder gets a really special meaning in preterito.
Would you translate the podían leer as could you read?
Could you read? Meaning, did you have the, oh, like it might be implying, did you have this with you so you could manage to, you know, so that you could, I shouldn't say manage, so that you could do that? Or was it in a legible format, or was it even on hand available? Yeah. Like, you know, sometimes somebody might not have that physical item right there, and therefore, oh, they couldn't do it because it wasn't physically there. That's what podían is talking about. It's talking about the ability to read that, whether it's from, you know, was it physically there? Were your glasses not around and you couldn't, you know, decipher it, that kind of thing. But pudieron leer, it actually means that activity of leer. Actually, did you guys make it happen? Okay, so it talks about that action definitely having occurred. Okay, bien, sí, okay. ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any kind of question about that? So it's actually helpful, useful to know this verb for a couple of reasons. One reason is that people will, when you hear people using it, they mean, oh, got it done, got it done. Somebody managed to actually make that happen, okay, as opposed to just have the ability. And the other reason is this past tense thing, this little form you get with pude, pudiste, pudo, this little form is going to come into play later on because there's going to be a different tense based on this thing. And actually, more specifically, it's based on this one word. There's going to be a special thing you'll learn later, which is going to be a form of using poder in its most super polite, asking pretty please kind of form when you want to ask a question in a super polite form. And it's going to be based on that one preterit form, pudieron.
Is that in 3 years' time?
It
5 years
is.
away?
It is, but actually, I'm going to show you what it will look like because it is quite commonly formed. So this word pudieron will tangent off to the side just a bit. This is used to form what we call a past subjunctive. Oh, good God, that sounds awful. Wow, that sounds bad. That sounds bad, but it's actually quite good. All right. So why would I want to know that? Sometimes people want to ask something in a super polite way. Let's say if they're working in an office environment, or if they're asking something at a very, very swanky restaurant for service. Or let's say, because I think it always helps to be super polite and respectful in this situation. Let's say you are, God forbid, stuck having to go to an embassy over something like a lost passport or, one of those God forbid reasons. There is a super polite form of asking, could you, based on this one verb. Ooh, here's what happens. What happens is you take, I'm going to put it all in caps, pudieron, you take that, we take the, we take that off and it becomes pudiera. Pudiera. And pudiera means could you please? The please is like baked into that verb. You probably wouldn't even need to say por favor or porfa. Well, you could if you really want to lay it on thick and really try to, butter somebody up, I guess. But this is something that is considered a super polite form to ask if somebody could do this. So, okay, let's put it in context. Let's say you're in a store and you ask somebody, you love these shoes, they're expensive shoes, okay, but they don't fit. And the person waiting on you is super busy and kind of frazzled, and you want to be really polite because you want the attention with all those other people vying for that salesperson's attention. So you ask something like, pudiera buscar otro número, and número in this sense would mean a shoe size. Número is often used for shoe size. Pudiera buscar otro número en este estilo. And you're talking about zapatos, okay? You're talking about zapatos. Guy, I can't get my, could you, pudiera is super polite. And it says, could you please? pudiera buscar otro número, ¿ok? Bien. So pudiera is used as a super polite, could you do something? When you're asking a question. And you don't need it all the time, but it kind of helps to know that this is the form that this comes from. Okay.
In Duolingo, they've introduced quisiera. Is it the same?
That's the same thing. So I'm going to show you how that morph happens. I could tell you, which is really okay. Just memorize that word quisiera. But here's why that happens. Querer, of course, because otherwise it would be too easy. Querer is irregular. Es irregular en pretérito. So, quisieron is the same kind of thing. So I'm going to cap it, put it in caps. Quisieron is what we'll use to build the same thing. These are known as super polite kind of things. So we take that and we change quisieron to, quisiera. And now that turns it into a super polite way of saying, I would like as in I would want. Yeah. So yeah. Quiero means I want. And in a lot of situations that works okay, like fast food ordering, because you got people waiting behind you in line. They want to get you in and move you on. So they're not really interested in like super, a lot of verbal exchange. But, quisiera, quisiera saber el horario del tren. Let's say, you're ordering some kind of you're at a ticket booth and there's no line behind you. And the guy doesn't look particularly friendly. These things, you're reading the body language. If you want to, again, butter them up, make them happy, sound like you're being extremely, please, could you help me with this? Quisiera saber. I would like to know the train schedule. Quisiera saber el horario del tren. O quisiera saber el precio de los billetes. Wow, why is it changing? Oh, precious, why is it doing that? El precio. Quisiera saber el precio de los billetes. I would like to know the price of the tickets. Okay. So if you're in a somewhat formal situation, these words, you will start to see these in something like Duolingo quite a lot, because this is considered the super polite way of saying, I would want something, I would like something, or could you do something? And these two specific words are helpful if you are asking for assistance in an office, business, store, service, customer service kind of setting. Okay. And they are seen as super polite. Quiero in Spanish is seen as a kind of in your face verb. If you're in fast food ordering, quiero is fine because it gets the job done and you move on. But if you're in a formal sit down setting or in let's say maybe an office setting, those two words are seen as a more polite alternative, and quiero is seen as kind of in your face, like saying, I want it.
Mm.
Yeah. Quiero has kind of this meaning. Now, I want it now. Okay. And puedo by itself just means can I, but you never ask, can I have, like if you want something brought to you, you know, in a service situation, you know, could I have this thing off the menu? Yeah. Could you bring me this thing off the menu? You don't ask that as puedes traer, can you bring? Puedes traer or puede usted traer still doesn't make it better. Puede usted traer, can you bring? Just means, do you have the physical ability to bring that out here? That's what it means. But that's not really what you mean. What you mean is, could you please bring? So that's why you want this word pudiera. Pudiera, if you're asking somebody to bring something to you, yeah. Puede traer, can you bring, just says, well, you got 2 feet, can you walk it over? That's what it means. What you want to ask is, you know, pudiera traerme este postre. Oh, could you bring me this dessert? And pudiera is super polite, and you're asking in a really nice way. So people tend to, you know, kind of say, oh, wow, they know how to use that. That is the polite way of asking something if you're in a very formal setting. So that, knowing that past tense of the verb pudieron kind of brings you to, this is why this is used, but it's used to indicate polite request. And those are all based on these preterite, oddly, they're based on these preterite third person plural things. That's pretty convoluted, isn't it? That is convoluted, but that's what the basis is. Okay. Bien. Let's switch gears a little bit and let's look at poner. Poner has no meaning change, so we don't have that to deal with. All we've got to think about is putting it in the past, saying that somebody placed something, they put it somewhere and it's done. That's all we have to know, or put something on. So this stem change of changing PON to PUS for our stem of the verb will hold true, and I don't have any funky meaning changes implied. We can use it for both poner by itself or ponerse, the reflexive form. So if you want to just ask somebody, hey, did you set the table?
¿Pusiste la mesa?
Sí. Uy, can't get my question marks to work here. Aquí. Pusiste la mesa. Pusiste la mesa. Pusiste la mesa. Did you set the table? Because poner is used for set as well. Okay. I put on a clean shirt. Oh, it's talking about putting something on my body. So
Me
now I need
puse
ponerse.
una camiseta limpia.
Me puse una camiseta
Limpia.
limpia. Sí, me puse una camiseta limpia. Bien. Okay. Bueno, me puse, and we just need the me because it means I'm putting it on my body. Okay. The me has nothing to do with the conjugation per se. It says I'm putting it on my body, or that I did put it on my body. Okay. We put the glasses on the table.
Pusimos
los vasos en la
Pusimos los vasos
vasos.
en la mesa. En la mesa. Bien. Pusimos en vasos. Probably we're not talking about these kind of glasses, right? On the table. But yeah, if you meant glasses for vision, it would be lentes, right? But I was thinking about glasses that you drink out of. Okay.
Oh,
Pusimos
that's
los
what I
glasses.
thought too. I thought it's like a
Now,
gafas.
it would totally make grammatical sense for you to say, hey, oye, sí, pusimos las gafas, pusimos los lentes en la mesa. Yeah, because we set these kind of glasses on a table too. Yes. So
That's what I did.
I implied, but
Okay.
yeah, it could be either one of those. I couldn't ding you because you didn't know. We didn't have a big conversation for you to put it in the context of setting a table. Okay, they
Wait,
put his.
Madeline,
See,
quick on, I wanted to say sobre instead of en. That's maybe for another lesson.
oh, sobre. No, está bien. That's okay. Could you use? Es buena pregunta. This is actually a good question, and it's easily answered. Could you say sobre la mesa? Yes, you could. You could. Sobre is on, and sobre means really, sobre implies, on top of, on top of. It is a longer way to say that. The short answer is probably the more common for something like this, but sobre la mesa, that does work. I think of sobre more, okay, for example, if I were saying I was putting a tablecloth, un mantel, that kind of drapes over, I would be more likely to use sobre for that because it's really covering the whole thing.
Okay.
But you can totally say sí sobre la mesa instead of en la mesa. You can, right? It's something that you can substitute in. Okay, bien.
Okay.
They put his name on the list.
Pusieron su nombre en la lista.
Pusieron su nombre en la lista. Sí, en la lista. Bien. Pusieron su nombre en la lista. Okay. Fantástico. Oh, he put on his sunglasses. Now we need ponerse. We have to have ponerse. So we need
las gafas del sol.
se puso las gafas de sol, or it might be los lentes. Whoops. De sol. Some regions like to use gafas. Some prefer to use lentes. It really depends. Depende. Okay, and you just get your cue from listening to people talk. Se puso las gafas de sol. Bien. Okay. Could say sus gafas de sol, las gafas de sol. A little more common.
So sus gafas de. Okay.
You could put sus in if you mean specifically, oh, hey, his, but yeah.
So but we still use the se puso sus gafas de sol?
Sí. You could plug sus, but I think las gafas is really a little more common there. Again, it's like that article of clothing and body parts thing. They tend to use the article more. They might use sus if specifically the emphasis is on, oh, his, don't take Jose's, his, Luis's, okay. Bien. Okay. And here is a fun and funky part. This is ponerse, but a little different. And you actually do hear people using this quite a lot. Ponerse, when it's not talking about a noun, an article of clothing, when we pair up ponerse with an adjective, a description, it kind of morphs this verb ponerse into the idea of got a certain way, became a certain way. Okay, but we have to have ponerse with a description to talk about somebody's mood. somebody's attitude, somebody's feelings. Okay, so this means we're not using ponerse with camiseta. We're not using ponerse with pantalones. We're not using ponerse with chaqueta. We're not using it with an article of clothing. We're combining it with some sort of a physical feeling or an emotional feeling. But often this is going to be a past sensing because it indicates, a reaction that somebody had in their feelings or in their physical state, like illness. Okay. He blushed.
Él se puso rojo.
Se puso rojo. Se puso rojo. He got red means he blushed. Yeah. Se puso rojo. He got red. He became red. Well, we have a special word, blushed, but yeah. Se puso rojo means he turned all red. Bien. Okay. He got mad. He got angry. Or I got, perdón.
Me puse
Enojada.
And
enojado.
sí, enojado or enojada, depending on if you're a man or a woman. Me puse enojado, me puse enojada. I got angry. I got angry. Me puse enojada. I got angry. Okay. This word got in English, we fling got around about a gazillion different ways, right? And Spanish uses many, many different words. I hate to tell you, probably 6 or 7, depending on what you mean, in what context got is being used to say that word got. But this is indicating like an emotional or physical response. But in the past, right? We became very happy.
Nos pusimos muy felices.
Nos pusimos muy
Alegre.
felices. Felices, contentos,
Alegre.
alegres, no importa, right? You can use any of the happy words. Alegres, contentos, felices. Nos pusimos muy felices. Okay. We became very happy. It indicates something that happened kind of quickly, right? If so, you talk about somebody getting mad, it's not usually a slow burn. It's like, ooh, he got mad. Well, they put that in preterito. They got sick yesterday.
Se pusieron enfermos ayer.
Se pusieron enfermos ayer. Se pusieron enfermos ayer, sí. And that se pusieron makes the onset kind of definite and quick. Yeah. The se pusieron enfermos usually indicates that that was a physical reaction. It happened kind of quickly. And, you know, it's not they were getting sick, it's they got sick. And it's a definite event related thing. But you hear Ponerse used a lot with these. Look at these are all descriptive words. They're not talking about jacket or shirt or pants. They're talking about like an attitude or physical feeling, right? All of these talk about a reaction, an attitude change, if you will, an emotional or physical state that happened pretty quickly. Bien? Okay. Bueno, ¿alguna pregunta? Any question? I just wanted to show you different ways you're likely to hear these two irregular verbs, poner and poder. Okay? Bien?
Sí.
Okay. A ver. Entonces, then I want to go to this. I'm not going to play the whole video, but this video, if you didn't watch it last week, if you didn't get time, make sure you do so. There are some verbs where the one verb, a particular verb, may have a different meaning in using it in preterit versus using it in imperfecto. So, and these four are some of the big violators, right? They talked about how they are different, but, and I will tell you quite honestly, querer, you don't hear as much in preterit really, because when you conversationally want to say you wanted something, you're not going to need preterit tense with querer. You just don't, right? He wanted to work, quería trabajar, right? He wanted to sit down, quería sentarse, boom. And that's really all you need to know. So querer, I will show you what it looks, while you've seen a little bit of what it looks like, but you're conversationally, you're not going to need to really use the preterit for querer very much, but just know it gets a slightly different meaning. But whenever the idea you want to say is, I wanted to do something, it's going to be imperfecto. I mean, that's just what it's going to be. Poder, again, I think really imperfecto is going to be a little more common. Saber and conocer get definite meaning, nuances. Saber, I want to kind of explain why. Saber means to know, facts, how to, information, right? So saber is going to be needed more commonly in imperfecto for conversation. But do know that when they put it into preterito, saber changes its meaning quite substantially. It means found out. Okay, when we talk about mental processes and translating that into past ideas, I knew something. When you use I knew conversationally, I knew, I knew all my multiplication tables. He knew how to fix the car. Oh, thank heavens, he knew how to fix the car. You know, those are mental processes, and they just talk about information you had stored in your brain. There's no definite beginning or end to that. So when we flip that verb of saber into what we call preterito, preterit, it means, it has to mean that somebody knew something at a specific time. They knew something at a specific time, and it happened like that, where we knew the beginning and we knew the end. And what's the only meaning that can, in English, the only thing that can mean is found out. It means that somebody discovered something. Boom. So saber in preterito changes that meaning of saber. Yeah, it means new, but it means found out at a specific time. And that happens quickly.
Can it be realized? I realized.
Kind of, yes. I'm going to show you the difference between those two. There is a slight difference, but kind of like the difference that is in English. Okay. And for your needs, if you're speaking to somebody, it may serve equally well to use either one. Maybe it won't make a difference for what you need. No sé, I don't know. Oops. And let me pause that for a minute. Oop. Momentito. Lo siento mucho que no funciona. Ahorita sí funciona. Now it does work. Okay. So, saber en pretérito really definitely changes the meaning. It means found out, that somebody boom, wow, Yeah, and to boot, saber is irregular. So here is what it has. It turns the B upside down. Yeah, that's just memorizing just what the form is that. We turn the B upside down and we stick a U in again. Notice these U's and I's seem to come up a lot. Supe, I found out. Supimos, we found out. Supiste, you found out. Supo, he or she found out. And supieron, they found out. And it definitely does not mean just the idea of they knew. Okay. They knew the answer. If I want to say, oh, they knew the answer to that, right? They knew it. It's, sabían la respuesta. They knew the answer. How long? I don't know. Oh, they just knew it. It was stored in the gray matter and they just pulled it out. Yep, they just knew it. They just knew it. But really saying it this way changes the meaning quite a lot. Supieron la respuesta means they found out the answer. And it means they discovered it, that it happened, boom, like that. Okay. They knew the answer. I don't know how long, an hour, 5 years, 2 decades, don't know, right? The focus is not really when that information came in, just that they had that information. Sabían la respuesta, supieron la respuesta. They found out. Okay, can this mean they realized? It could, in a way, if you mean realized as boom, boom, boom. But remember, there are other ways we can say realized. A more exact translation of realized is darse cuenta de, to realize something. So the way we would take that was we would, it's reflexive. It uses dar, which is very irregular in preterito. So it becomes me di cuenta de, sí, me di cuenta de, me di cuenta de su plan. I realized their plan. Okay, meaning, yeah. Can it kind of mean, yeah. Are these interchangeable? They might be. But they're different verb structures, right? There is yet another verb that also means found out. Oh, shoot. But is a very regular verb. Enterarse de. Me enteré de. I found out about. I discovered, that fact. Yeah. So Spanish oddly has some words that happen to be, synonyms for this idea of found out, discovered. These talk about something that happened pretty fast. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? That talks about something that happened pretty fast. But again, that's why they're preterito. But sometimes they're pretty interchangeable. Okay, bien. Okay.
Oh, that's really hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
I mean, it's sometimes it kind of like it's kind of hard to figure it out. Like, the preterito here, like saber become who knew, becomes supe, supiste, supo.
Who knew? Oh yeah, you just say, wow, who knew that? Who knew that? No, it's not that complicated. So here's what it is. Who knew about that? No, it depends on what you, the speaker, mean, right? Who knew? You know, sometimes don't we just sort of say that rhetorically? ¿Quién sabía? Who knew? ¿Quién sabía? ¿Quién sabía eso? ¿Quién sabía eso? Who knew that? Who knew that? Okay. If what you're just saying is a simple thing of, well, who knew that? It is clearly, definitely this thing. ¿Quién sabía eso? ¿Quién sabía eso? I want to know the person who knew that in this crowd. I want to know who got that right. Right. Okay. Bien. Right. Yeah, but it really changes the meaning quite a lot. And remember, not all verbs do this, but this is one of the verbs that does. ¿Quién supo eso? Is quite different. It means who found out about that. Who found out? And you're talking about somebody getting the information like quickly, right? Discovering that information quickly is this preterito idea, right? Somebody found out at a certain time. If I found out that there was an accident on the corner, oh, somebody just gave me that information and it was pretty recent and it happened quickly, right? This talks about the action of knew, but there's no time element attached to it, except that, well, knew it. Knew, as in to know, is a very mental kind of activity, yeah? So in order for me to use preterito with the idea of knew something, it's got to happen at a very definable time. I could say, I knew a few words in French. I knew a few words. And I'm just talking about stuff stored in my gray matter. That's all. The emphasis is not when I got that information. The emphasis is, oh, I knew a fair amount. Sí, sabía un poco de francés. I knew a little bit about French. But the emphasis is just that I had that information. It's not on when I got it or how quickly I got it, right? But, supe esas palabras. Wow, I found out about those words. And I just discovered that. It's a very different, conceptually, it's very different. But I think the thing that's helpful for you to know is that conversationally, when you're just chit-chatting with somebody, most of the time we're just saying somebody knew, not that they found out. When do you need to know? When do you need to use this verb? When you specifically mean found out. But if you're going to say knew, it's this. Sabía. Boom. Perdón, sí.
So, is it superior, the infinitive for that? Superior?
The infinitive?
Yeah. So
for this one here?
Yeah, like, because you were.
Just saber.
No, the next one.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah.
Supo.
The infinitive is still saber.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you haven't seen. Okay, so all of these are the very irregular forms of saber. I'll give you that file for that list for the new ones, 2 new ones.
I just wanted to know, do you have any like a trick that like, some kind of like to figure it out, to memorize it faster?
Okay.
To know like the preterit, oh my God, it's like,
how did I know somebody was going to ask that today? Because everybody knows that's okay. And this is going to show you.
I was like really having a hard time doing that. And then different between imperfecto and preterito is when I listen to the story, it's sometimes the line is kind of blur.
Okay. So really the difficulty is using one kind of past tense imperfecto versus a different kind of past tense preterito. That's the real problem. That's the real difficulty, which is why you get the little stories. Because that is helpful. But if
Maybe
I
you could
just
give us
say,
a little,
perdón, ¿sí?
maybe a little homework on a single verb where you gave us this 5 questions to write down in Spanish, but don't tell us which form. Like,
okay, so figuring out, do I use this in preterito or do I use this in imperfecto? Okay,
like,
wow. Yeah, that's
saber.
kind of hard, but yeah, okay,
I
yeah,
don't know.
useful. We'll do that. So the reason I don't give you, you can see this here, and I'll show you where this is. I'll get you the link for this so you can look. The reason we don't learn all the preterites at once is practice the conjugations of 56 irregular and stem changing verbs in the preterite. Well, good God. Are you really going to memorize 56 verbs? Are you really? And are you going to do that in a week? I don't think you are. Not that I think you don't have the ability, but who wants to? Not much of anything.
Diane, did you memorize everything there?
Yeah. So let me show you an example of why I don't show you a chart like this. If we look at this verb here, huir. Huir means to flee, as in flee, run away fast, because otherwise somebody's going to hurt you. To flee, yeah? You flee from danger. Are you going to need that chit-chatting with anybody? No. Is it an irregular and preterite? Yes, it's an irregular and preterite, but are you going to use it in everyday conversation? I seriously doubt it. Okay. So there are a lot of things on this list you may not need. Negar, to deny, or yeah, you see, some of these verbs you don't really use, you are less likely to use conversationally than others. So what are you likely to use conversationally? You are likely to use tener a lot. You are likely to use ser a lot. You are likely to use ir a lot. Right? You kind of see where I'm going. You are likely to use haber, which means there are, and therefore in the past there were. You're likely to use that a lot. You are. So if I gave you a list of here are all the irregulars and preterite, okay, that'd be nice and it's very informative, but it's not necessarily helpful for you in communicating. Okay, but those things do exist. Let's go through. I think this is going to do it. Okay, this will. Being. Except I want to turn off the music because it drives me crazy. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's take a look. This will step us into a little bit of questions that might be asked in preterite versus questions that might be asked in imperfecto. Okay? Because if you are thinking, wow, this is a hard skill to learn, you are correct. Let's take a look. We're going to take a look at these are questions. Ooh, is it going to enlarge it? It does. Yay. And it's going to pick a random question. De niño, which means as a kid. De niño, if you're a girl, I would ask de niña. ¿Cuáles deportes jugabas? What was that asking?
Which sport?
What kind of a sport?
Which kind of sports did you
play?
play? Why do you think that's imperfecto?
It's
I
the
used to
past.
It's
play.
talking about the niño. It's like the time when you were a kid.
Long
Is
time
that-
ago. Yeah.
Period
And
of
did
time.
you probably play a lot when you were a kid?
Mhm.
Did you do it over and over again?
Sure.
We're asking about something that was your habit,
Habit.
your usual pattern when you were a kid. So we're never going to plug in a preterito for a question like this. It'll always be imperfecto because we're talking about what you used to do. If you ask somebody that question in English, it would be, as a kid, what sports did you play? Did you play? That's plain past tense, but you know it means used to. You might frame that question as, what sports did you used to play? Yeah. And what you used to do is always imperfecto, boom, end of story. Okay, so how would we answer a question like that? ¿Cómo se contesta? How do you answer?
Cuando
Jugaba.
a niña.
Jugaba,
Jugaba.
Baseball.
Football.
jugaba al béisbol. I played baseball.
Volleyball.
Jugaba
Volleyball.
al voleibol. I played volleyball. Jugaba
Al tenis.
al tenis. Sí. Jugaba al fútbol
Boxing.
americano. Sí, sí, aquí. Okay.
What is
let's-
boxing?
Boxing? El boxeo. Hacer el boxeo, sí. I think some places.
Hacer el
boxear,
boxeo.
sí. Let's say it's a totally different sport that gets a verb. Nadaba. I used to swim. Okay. Montaba en bicicleta. I rode a bike. Okay. Hacía ciclismo. I did cycling, meaning if you actually raced bikes, you know, as opposed to riding for fun. As a kid, you're probably not talking about the Lance Armstrong at age 7 in a race. No. So it'll be, you know, montaba en bicicleta. I used to ride a bike. Okay. That question will typically always be imperfecto because it's talking about your habit. And it's an easy question to ask. Okay. Let's do a different one and see why it winds up. I wish I could get rid of that box, but I can't. Okay. ¿Qué hiciste ayer? It's a very different kind of question. ¿Qué hiciste? What's hiciste?
What did you do?
What did you do yesterday?
What did you do? Are we talking about a habit?
No.
No.
Are we referring to a specific time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was yesterday.
Ayer.
Preterit.
We want to know something that happened in a nice, neat to wrap it up time package of ayer.
Hice
¿Qué hiciste
comer
ayer?
pollo.
Hizo.
Am I likely to use hacer in the answer?
Oh, no, no,
Not really.
No,
that's right.
but I will need a preterito to answer.
Estudié el español.
Estudié español. I studied Spanish. Sí. Okay.
You teacher's pet.
¿Pudieras darnos más tarea? Could you give us more homework? I see. Okay. ¿Pudieras
Nora, you're
darnos más
straight to the point,
tarea?
Nora.
Okay.
I'm just hanging
But
on.
you see how somebody's asking about in a very specific time, hey, what did you do yesterday? And do we ask that question a lot? Yeah, we do. That's a common thing. So, otro ejemplo. ¿Qué hiciste ayer?
Fui a la tienda.
Fui a la tienda. Perfecto.
Y a la nieta.
Bien. Okay. Vi mi programa favorita en la tele. I watched my favorite show on TV, por ejemplo. Leí un poco del periódico. I read a little in the paper. Sí. Busqué un producto nuevo en Amazon. I looked for a new product on Amazon, but if I looked for it on yesterday online, it was over and done with yesterday, right? Busqué.
How about one where the answer is with hacer?
That actually will use hacer?
Yeah, hice ejercicio.
Exacto. Hice ejercicio. I exercised, because that particular idea has to be expressed as hacer ejercicio. Hice ejercicio ayer. Perfecto, sí. Y no hice la cama. I didn't make my bed. No hice la cama. Yeah, sí, bien. Lavé la ropa. Okay, so, but the key is, because we're asking you about what you did yesterday, we're talking about something that it's over and done with, not your habit. You know, not a customary thing, just something that you did yesterday. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's look at another typical question. Otra pregunta típica. ¿A quién? Whom? O a quiénes, if it's more than one who, right? It's the Dr. Seuss of who's. ¿A quién o a quiénes viste el fin de semana? And I wouldn't even, I think that pasado is a poor phrasing. Just el fin de semana is good. ¿A quién viste el fin de semana? Who did you see over the weekend?
Visito una amiga.
Vi a una amiga. Vi a una amiga. I saw a friend. We need a yo answer because it's viste, right? You saw. So we need a be answer. Vi a mis amigas Gail y Heather. Bien.
Vi a mi hija.
Vi a mi hija. Perfecto. Sí. So there we really need that specific verb in the past of a form of ver, and it's viste, vio, but it's a yo. It's got to be a yo answer because they asked viste, you saw. Okay. Fantástico. Vamos a practicar con otra pregunta. Okay. ¿Cuántos? Hay dos verbos. There are two verbs. Hay dos. ¿Cuántos años tenías? How old were you? That's a description. And all descriptions have to be imperfecto. ¿Cuántos años tenías cuando empezaste clases de español? How many years did you have, literally, but how old were you is how we would say it. When you started Spanish classes. Yo tenía
muchos años.
Okay, tenía muchos años cuando empecé clases de español. Okay, yo tenía 14 años cuando empecé clases de español. Bien, so the tenía needs to stay tenía because it's a description of my age in the past. And description of the age in the past, just, you don't need to decide, do I use preterite or imperfect? Description of age in the past, boom, imperfecto, boom, that's all it can be. Okay, so it's got to be
a slight tangent here. I didn't want to, I was trying to answer this, but I didn't want to give an exact age. I just wanted to say many years. Do you still use tenía, like tenía mucho años?
Tenía muchos, it would be more likely to just say era adulto, I was an adult, right? You'd be more likely to, So in other words, you might use a different verb other than tener if you don't want to give a number of years. You know, if you don't want to say tenía 65 años, if you want to just say I was older, you could say era mayor, which is using the form of ser, right? Era with a general age.
Or can I say like it started late? No,
Era mayor cuando empecé. I was
okay,
older.
era mayor. That's what you say.
Era
Era
mayor.
mayor.
Era adulto. I was an adult. Same idea. Or somebody could just say, I was young. Era joven. Era joven. See? You could say, I was older than dirt. Era anciano. Era anciana. Anciana is mean old age. Elderly. Era anciana. Okay. So era anciano, you know, era mayor, era adulto. That's the polite way we'd all say that kind of thing.
That's a polite way. I thought it's like an insult way. It's like saying that you're from the ancient, like anciano.
Yeah, anciano sounds pretty. Anciano, you know, it depends on your tone of voice, doesn't it? Anciano is the way of talking about like a really elderly person. But this is kind of an interesting question because you see that the age description part has to go into imperfecto because it's a description. Whereas the began classes, that happened on a certain day, right? And that stays as preterito. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's look at another. Vamos a ver otra pregunta típica. We're going to look at another typical question. ¿Cómo eras de pequeño? De pequeño is the same as de niño. It's just it's a synonym. Pequeño means small, little. So it means little kid. ¿Cómo eras de pequeño? What were you like? Literally, how were you as a little one? But we would say, what were you like when you were little? Era traviesa cuando, era traviesa de pequeña. I was mischievous as a little kid. Era responsable. I was responsible. Era responsable de pequeña. Era muy simpática de pequeña. I was very nice as a little kid. See? A ver. Era, if you were a blonde and then boy, you know how, like, well, my daughter's in this thing. Now she's got to be blonde out of the bottle. See? Era rubia. De pequeña, I was very, very blonde as a little one, but yeah, we talk about things like that. See, but that's all got to be imperfecto because it's description. Bien, okay. Vamos a ver otra pregunta típica, and you'll notice they are mixing the tenses here because it depends on the idea you're conveying. De niño o de niña, ¿con qué jugabas?
Did we do that one already? Didn't we?
No, it was a little
That's a different question.
It is about deportes.
The sport. Yeah, the sport you did. The sport you play when you were little.
Sí, exacto. ¿Con qué? With what? Meaning a thing. A toy.
Okay.
We're talking about the toy.
Barbie, Nora, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
Or maybe a pet. You might have played with your pet.
Yeah.
De niña, jugaba con mi perrito. I played with my little doggy. ¿Sí? Es normal. ¿Sí? De niña, jugaba con las muñecas. As a little girl, I played with dolls. ¿Sí? De niño, de niño, my son could say something like, de niño jugaba con los camiones, with my trucks.
Oh,
Así. De niño jugaba con Legos. It's a brain name. We're not going to translate that. Con Legos. See? Bien. But the emphasis is on the thing. And the emphasis is also what you used to do over and over again, a lot, frequently. I can't count the times because it was just a lot. Okay. Nos quedan 4. We've got 4 of these left. We'll see where it will take us with here. ¿En cuáles actividades participaste la semana pasada? ¿En cuáles actividades? In which kind of activities? And they're asking for more than one. Participaste. Is this preterito or imperfecto?
preterito.
Preterito, because we have an aste, sí. And why is it phrased as participaste?
Because it's la semana pasada.
Because we've got la semana pasada. We've got a nice, neat, I can put this in a box. It's a neat bit of time that's well defined. Started on Friday, ended on Sunday, right? And there we go. En cual participaste. So how would we answer that? There are a lot of ways we could answer that. The easiest thing is to take participaste and make it a yo form. Aste means it's an AR verb.
Monte mi bici y
Monté en bici. I rode my bike.
comí un pizza.
Comí una pizza. Okay, bien. 2 actividades. You've got 2. See? So you may plug in, you're likely to plug in entirely different verbs. You're likely not to say participé, I participated, unless you're talking about meetings or something like that. Sí, fui al parque con mi familia y, por ejemplo, y pasé la aspiradora and I vacuumed. Okay, that's not very interesting, but any kind of activities, but you're probably going to plug a different verb or different verbs because you use more than one into that. Okay. 3 ejemplos más. We've got 3 more examples. And I see which way we need to go after our practice here today. ¿Qué hacías cada fin de semana cuando eras? And they should not have that word de there. That the word de should not be there. That is that's a typo. ¿Qué hacías cada fin de semana cuando eras niño? And don't use a de after eras niño when you were a kid. It does not need the word de. ¿Qué hacías? What did you used to do? And this specifically means used to do. So hacías is not as hiciste. It's asking cada fin de semana, every weekend. Okay. Jugaba con los chicos, con mis amigos. Jugaba con mis amigos. Sí. Iba a la iglesia. I went to church. Every weekend, con mi familia. Sí. Ayudaba a mi mamá con la cena. I helped my mom with dinner. Right? So anything that you answer there is going to be talking about what you did it's repeated action. Yeah, every weekend. Okay. A ver, hay solamente 2. We've only got 2 left here. Oh, this is going to help us to... Uy, ¿a dónde fuiste durante las vacaciones de invierno? Oh, where este año, this year. So it's putting it into the this year context. That's a nice, neat. I can put that in a box. It's talking about winter vacation. ¿A dónde fuiste? And I can honestly...
Oh, this winter.
We
Arizona.
Fui a Arizona. I went to Arizona. No fui a ninguna parte. I went nowhere. No fui a ninguna parte. I didn't go anywhere. See? Okay? But we need fuiste in both the question and fui in the answer, because we're talking about a specific time period that's very neat to box up in a beginning and end. Winter break last year. Not a repeated, not where did you go every summer? Yeah. But a very definite time period. Okay. Y un ejemplo más. Oh, and it would not eliminate. Well, we'll just hope it gives us a blue. Oh, it doesn't. That's interesting. It doesn't let us eliminate. Uy, vamos a ver. I wonder if I can make that flip. I can. No, I can't. I
No,
don't
it
need
was
it.
the other.
No, I was right in the first place. Oh, ¿cuáles clases? Oh, ¿cuáles clases tuviste el año pasado? Ah, I don't like that question. I'll tell you why later. So we're not going to do that. Well, we can, but we're going to skip that. Okay. So I can see where this is going. And actually, this was a good activity to finish up with. What I'm going to give you for prep is some of this piece, which is some questions will be in preterito, some questions will be in imperfecto. And you will be able to, and we'll prep it for you to do in small groups with people, because they'll be very conversational, you know. Nothing about 16th century German literature. No, they're going to be like things that you did or used to do. Easy stuff. So we're going to take all of those. And then I think I'm going to have a separate slide where I'll like feed in some ideas in English. And you'll have to, how would
That'd
I
be good.
translate this English question into, how would I ask that in Spanish? And now you're going to have to decide, do I use preterito or do I use imperfecto? So we're going to have two levels of practice. One will be very guided. You'll see in the question whether you need, right, preterito or imperfecto. And in the second half of the practice, you're going to have to decide, ooh, do I ask that question in imperfecto or do I ask it in preterito? See, because what I'm sensing is the difficulty now that you've got your feet kind of wet, because you guys really do, is, oh, I've got to keep those two different kinds of past tenses straight. And shoot, they've got different endings, but we're going to keep these very, very conversational. You won't see as many of the irregulars. Well, you'll see a lot of ir as irregular, because where did somebody go is a very common question, right?
Yeah.
So which verbs you see depends on which are the ones you often hear from people. Yeah.
Good.
You're very likely to ask, wow, where did your husband go? Or where did you guys go for your anniversary? You're less likely to ask, did you calculate all your taxes to the exact? No, you're not likely to ask that. You're likely to talk about everyday stuff, right? And that's where we will plug that in. So next week, and next week may be the last part of our advanced session, because we did not lose a week to the 4th of July weekend with this Wednesday session. Let me take a quick look. Sí, yeah. Hoy es el 17, ¿no? Sí, hoy es el 17. Next week is our last week. So this is a great way to finish up. Next week is going to be using both those tenses, but making some decisions about that. Bien? I'm going to send you the cutest, it is to die for cute story. It's a past story. It will be a little bit faster paced than that other one you saw. So turn on the closed captions, but it's so cute because it's a love story and it's a teenage love story, and it's not a sad thing. It's cute and kind of fun to listen to, and you'll have a good time. But do listen for those cues about, you know, imperfecto and preterito. And you will see that once you start to get comfortable with it, which admittedly takes a long time, the wonderful thing about preterito and imperfecto is that when you listen to a story, you can immediately tell, did it happen like that? Or is it description or repeated? And you can tell immediately without even anybody saying a time cue, just from the verb they use. Boom. It creates an immediate impression one way or the other.
But Marilyn, they're often mixed up, right? They're often in a story. They're often.
That's why I send you the stories, because the only way to get comfortable, that mix is constant. It is constant. There is no way there is no way to ever tell a story in Spanish in the past that will only use one tense or the other. I mean, very seldom will everything wind up being always imperfecto. Really, always imperfecto what might be a description of what you used to do as a little kid. Maybe, but it's always a mix of the two. And it's very hard mentally to be prepared for that. These verbs coming at me are sometimes from this imperfecto side. They're sometimes from this, oh my God, and now hair on fire, right? Hair on fire, because it's a mixture. So you know what? I might not give you an extra I might not give you an extra. Well, no, I'll show you what the saber verb looks like, just so that you see that one. I'll give you at least that one for the found out verb, but that'll be about it for now. Okay, bien, todo bien.
Marilyn, are you doing the advanced class again next semester?
I'll do those. I will do them. They'll wind up being on a Wednesday because I am going to have a Tuesday morning class for sure. It's going to be a beginner set of people. And I know I hit my minimums on that. So yes, it will be Wednesdays. Same.
Okay. So we should still sign up for the Monday class. So.
Yep. Still sign up for the Monday class. Yes. Still sign up for the Monday class. And for those people who have a question, they fall into 2 sessions. So if you sign up only for one, that means you get September through like Halloween, and you have to sign up for the second half to get November through the end of December. It's the way they do it. So, eso es todo. That's it. Okay. Todo bien.
Gracias.
Fantástico. Muy bien, muy bien. Ok. Entonces, nos vemos.
Gracias.
Nos vemos.
Hasta luego.